All right, welcome to Introduction to Marketing Training. This is your trainer, and we are in for a very insightful lesson because in this one, lesson 3, we are talking about the 2 types of marketing. So the question is, why is this so important? Well, we want you to picture something in your mind really, because when marketing is done correctly, you can get some money like what you see in front of you, and you can put it in and make more back than when you put in. Obviously that classic return of investment. But where it also goes deeper is you have an opportunity to build a list. And if you remember Mr. Drucker saying the purpose of any business is to create and keep a customer. So when you keep your customer, you're able to sell onto them time after time after time. The flip side of this is if you do a focus on the other type of marketing that we're going to speak about. Here is that same bunch of money that you have, and unfortunately you get to a situation quite blatantly where you run out of money, and it can get even worse where you go out of business. Now, let's make something very, very clear. Companies that go out of business will go out of business because basically they do not have enough money. They do not have enough customers. Alright? So what we're saying is that your marketing, of course, and your advertising will allow you to get those customers. If you are spending money and not getting any money back, you are not able to acquire customers. And that what starts the very unhappy process of having less money coming in than you have going out. So the 2 types of marketing that we're looking at in this lesson are brand marketing and direct response marketing. Brand marketing and direct response. So the first one, brand marketing. What are the characteristics of brand marketing? Well, normally when you look at a brand advertisement or any form of marketing, there tends to be a prominent use of a logo or a slogan or a tagline, most of the time up at the very top. The kind of marketing that creates a feeling of awareness. It lays a foundation for future sales. It usually looks sharp, classy, very nice looking, but it tends to be expensive. It also happens to be dictated by the platform, and let me explain. Much of the time with brand marketing, someone will approach a company, someone will approach an organization and say, look, I work for such and such a company, we have this space, would you like to advertise with us? Or we have this special on these flyers and leaflets, would you like to buy them? As opposed to the different kind of marketing, which we'll explain in a moment. Brand marketing also promotes an idea, a mindset, or a lifestyle, if you will. Little is done in the way of testing, tracking and measuring the effectiveness of that brand marketing. And marketing, when it's done as a brand marketing, it tends to be done on a budget. Somebody turns around and says, okay, we've got this amount of money to spend on our marketing and advertising, and when it's done, it's done. And then the final thing is there is no response mechanism of any real kind in place. And when I say any kind, there is often some form of response mechanism, which I'll show you in a moment. But when I say of any kind, I'm talking about the deliberate attempt to get somebody to do something. So when we want to look at some brand marketing examples, here is a company that everybody knows about, okay? Apple. And you see at the top there, it says iPhone 4, this changes everything again. And then there's some images, very nicely classy looking advert. Here again is Apple. Touching is believing. The new faster iPhone, now with 3G. It talks about how much it's going for and a few other things, but that's pretty much it. And still continuing with Apple, we have the heading that says there's iPhone and then there's everything else, and it has all the different sort of images of iPhone and a bit of information there. Now when we go local, because we don't want to just sort of try and pin this down on big multi-billion dollar brands that are doing brand marketing, here is something from the UK, a local magazine, and you see at the top there it's for a real estate company. On the right is their logo, and on the left is a quote-unquote catchy slogan, make a smart move. And while talking about smart, here's another one, a real estate company that were doing something around Easter time, and you have Easter eggs and things like that. Let's get cracking. So this is what tends to happen with brand marketing, and there is a big word of warning that I want to repeat here. Because if you tend to do this kind of marketing and advertising, where it looks nice but it does very little else, rest assured this could happen, or even worse, this could happen too. So then we look at marketing type number 2, direct response marketing. And when we talk about direct response marketing, it's a clear contrast to what happens with the brand marketing. For a start, it uses a headline for attention or curiosity. It creates a feeling of desire, lays the foundation for immediate sales. It can often look plain and sometimes ugly. Now, where I can take half a step back now is that in this modern day and age of so much sort of software that you can have done via cloud-related devices and software programs, you can outsource some of the things. Now direct response doesn't need to look as plain and as ugly as it used to, but most of the time, compared to those really slick looking Apple adverts that we saw, it doesn't tend to look that way. Direct response is also dictated by a specific target audience or the market. Okay, it tends to speak to somebody or a certain category in particular. It promotes a feature, a benefit, an advantage. Testing, tracking, and measuring is done all of the time. If you remember before with the brand, we said that it's rarely done, if done at all, whereas with direct response marketing, it's done all the time. There is an unlimited budget with direct response marketing, and let me explain. What you tend to do with direct response marketing is you put some money in, you get some money back. Because you know it works, that enables you then to continue to scale. So you're not in a position where, for example, you'll use $1,000, you'll get $1,500 back, and you've got an opportunity to put some more money in, and you'll say, well, I've used my budget up. You know how it works. And then finally, as you can probably tell by the name, a clear response mechanism is in place. So let's take a look at some direct response examples. And you can start with this company here called Apple. Indeed, this is one of the early Apple ads, and notice how different it looks to this really sort of slick looking one with the image and the great artwork, a different kind of header and slogan to it. When we go back here, there's a headline, break into Apple headquarters, you'll get 30 days, which straight away is creating that interest, that curiosity, a reason for someone to keep reading. And do you see how content heavy it is? There's lots of writing there where there's some educating taking place, and there at the bottom there, the bottom right, you see a box to capture some information, whereas with the newer Apple ad you don't see any such thing. So the big thing that you sort of need to take on board, you can see just really what one is trying to achieve over another. Here's another example of an old Apple advert, and look at the top there, how to buy a personal computer. So what they've set out doing with this one in particular is do more education. And while you can't quite see it here, I'll read it out to you where the arrow is. It says the quickest way is to get a free copy of the consumer guide to personal computing. So they don't go straight for the sale, because even back in the day these were quite expensive. What they want to do, they want to get some information, and they say get yours by calling, there's a number there, or by writing. And it says then visit your local Apple dealer, we'll give you his name and address when you call. So can you see what they're doing here? We look at the very bottom of these bullets, there is a clear response mechanism in place. So make your characteristic of direct response that response mechanism. You're asking someone to do something, to fill something out, to call a number, and of course with the internet now, to download something, to leave your email address. We will talk about this in more detail in a later lesson, but you can see there's very much a response mechanism deliberately put in place. Now here you see a classic advert from the Ogilvy and Mather company, which was called How to Create Financial Advertising That Sells. And once again that concluded, you see that in the yellow there, where it said, after the ad, it said, here is a comprehensive 1-hour slide presentation. Please write on your company letterhead, all right, to request it. So of course what Ogilvy and Mather are doing there is they are building their database. Once they get the letter from a company or from an individual with their address details on, that will go into a database and they can continue to follow up and market to them. So to summarize, why direct response works is you put a certain amount of money in and you get even more back. And when you do it very, very well, you can make even more because of the response. If you remember with Apple, where they said, we'll send you a consumer guide. If you remember with Ogilvy and Mather, where they said, we'll send you a presentation. Because of those responses, they can then continue just to keep that relationship going until someone does buy. So when we look at the two types of marketing, there is brand marketing and there is direct response. And the only type of marketing for you should be direct response. And just leaving you with a final thought from this man here. His name is David Ogilvy. Sadly no longer with us, but widely hailed as the father of modern advertising. And what Mr. Ogilvy said was, he used to say to his team, you have a lot to learn from the direct response people because they know what really happens. They know to a penny what works. So the only type of marketing you need to worry about is direct response. Keep going over this video, make sure you see the characteristics, and of course we're not saying you need to compromise on how nice it looks, but just make sure that there is a response mechanism in place. Coming up next, lesson 4, we will focus on marketing psychology.